The Cathode Ray Podcast with Steve and Lewis. At the current state of this project, as I know it's evolving, but at the current state, what's the trickiest part of that building that project?
I think the trickiest part is, so I'm going to give the thing that the most people struggle with is reading before they dive in. Actually taking the effort to find the documentation. It's obviously not spoon-fed, because to make a spoon-fed guide takes a whole bunch of time, and we have to allocate our time, we're working our ways to that, but we're trying to get, you have so many things you got to do, you got to focus on certain things. But the hardest part, I'd say it's really the hardest part people struggle with the most is reading the guides and reading the documents. It's okay to ask for help, but read through the do your homework before you ask the professor kind of thing I had in school. And but the most technical thing is the vias. Soldering to the tiny vias on the Wii's can be difficult for people who haven't had experience or aren't willing to try flux.
I don't know why people would be. I don't know why anybody's scared of flux.
Yeah,
Man, I'm scared of not using flux.
I know, I had someone convinced, I've never needed flux. I never used it. And I'm like, and the way I explained it, they're like, what does flux do? And I'm like, do you ever wash dishes? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, what if I told you I washed my dishes without soap? I just used water. They'd be like, that's crazy. I'm like, well, you can do it. They're like, why would you want to? It's so hard. And I'm like, exactly. Try flux. It's like soap, but for solder joints. And then they came back in our Discord chat and was like, I'm a born-again Christian on this. I will tell everyone to use it.
You converted me. Congratulations.
I've been converted.
It's such a simple and silly thing.
So,
I think the idea too is people can jump into soldering, but there's so many choices. It's like, well, which solder do I buy? And
6337, as thin as possible, resin core, cast
right. Yes, exactly. But see, if you don't know that, then you're like, why is this different? Why does this difference matter? And do you take like you say, a lot of people, and this isn't just in this, I mean, it's really in this whole hobby, anything that's really technical, you're going to need to go in and do some kind of studying ahead of time. That's like what I try to tell people to do all the time is slow down. This is the part, this whole research part. Sure, it takes time, but it's the least destructive part of this whole thing.
Yeah,
some portions of this, you're only going to get one small chance to do this portion that could be screwed up. And if you just jump right into that, you will screw it up. And then your whole project's shot and you'd feel terrible.
Yeah. Why make expense? What I say is, why make expensive mistakes when you can just learn from other people's expensive mistakes? When other people make those other people have already made those expensive mistakes for you. Why don't you just learn from them instead of learning yourself? Some people insist on learning those mistakes themselves. So.
Well, I mean, I try to tell people when I came in to started working on CRTs and nobody was documenting anything barely and knew what was going on, I did the thing that no one else did, and it wasn't even crazy. I just went and found the service manuals and started reading them over and over and over again, and I was like, what is this 300-page service manual? Now I know all of it, and it's that's how I learned. So when people are like, what do you need to do? And I'm like, well, the first step is find the service manual for whatever you're working on. Read it. See what it says.
Yeah, and that's what we've got for that. There's some tiny soldering in that, and we always say just practice on other stuff. But anyone can do it if they're, it's the kind of thing. The matter is it's not a matter of are you skilled enough or are you smart enough. It's a matter of are you willing to put in the time to overcome the skill curve, because the lessons you learn from it will be it. And a lot of people, what they really struggle with is listening to the advice that are given. You know what I mean? They'll be like, hey, I'm looking for a question. here's your answer. Here is answer. And they're like, I don't like that answer. It's like, okay.
Please diagnose my CRT problem through this YouTube comment.
Yeah.